Thank you, Mr. President, for sitting down with NBC News. We'd like to start with the security situation and get your perspective as to where the security situation is in Afghanistan at the moment, and if the Afghan forces will be able to take on the lead of the security for the country by 2014.
Right. Well, with regard to security in Afghanistan, it is relatively better this year. In terms of the attacks on our forces, on our people. But it isn't what the Afghan people want. It isn't satisfactory. We still have tens of our people dying almost every day. On the question of the readiness, the preparedness of the Afghan security forces, they are quite ready. I can say with confidence, to handle the security of the country, the threats to this country, on their own.
So who would you say is behind the insecurity? Is it Al-Qaeda, is it the Taliban, or is it someone else?
Well, the name Taliban has been used very often. There's no doubt that some of the attacks are done by the Taliban. There's also no doubt that in many instances, this trademark name, the Taliban, is used by all sorts of players. Al-Qaeda, I don't think has a presence in Afghanistan. I don't even know if Al-Qaeda exists as an organization as it is being spoken about. So all we know is that we have insecurity. Part of the insecurity is definitely coming to us from terrorism and the attacks of the Taliban. Part of the insecurity is coming to us from the structures that NATO and America created in Afghanistan. The private security firms, the contractors that they promoted at the cost of the Afghan people, and the way they behaved with the Afghan people and the anger that has caused in the Afghan people and the resulting insecurity. And there is, for a number of years now, a growing perception in Afghanistan that a significant part of insecurity in Afghanistan is caused by the way the United States and some of its allies promoted lawlessness in Afghanistan by spreading corruption in Afghanistan. There were also contracts and contractors for oil supplies and all other supplies who were ridden with corruption, who bribed people along the way, and who, through causing corruption, brought us insecurity.
Last spring, you, along with President Obama, signed a bilateral agreement, a strategic partnership with the United States and Afghanistan beyond 2014. You also decided within the year you would sign a security agreement. I'd like to know where you are in that process of the security agreement.
We signed the strategic partnership agreement with the expectation and the hope that after signing the strategic partnership agreement, the nature of the United States activities in Afghanistan would change. We, as you know, began to believe nearly 5-6 years ago that the war on terror is not in Afghanistan. That by attacking Afghan villages and Afghan homes, you cannot defeat terrorism because that's not where it is. And rather than concentrating on the sanctuaries, Afghans paid a heavy price in this war. Signing the partnership of strategic relations was the method for us to bring a change from that approach in which the Afghans paid a heavy price to a relationship in which the United States would have presence in Afghanistan but would change its behavior and would respect Afghan sovereignty. Now that was signed. The Afghan people backed it, and we are happy that we have signed that. The second phase in that is to be the signing of a security agreement between Afghanistan and the United States. Talks are going on. We have not yet ordered a halt to negotiations on this, but we have raised issues with the United States because the agreement, the memorandum of understanding between us and the United States on the United States not taking prisoners in Afghanistan and not keeping prisons in Afghanistan has not been respected, has not been fulfilled as it was envisaged in the document that we signed. Therefore, I have written to President Obama that the Afghan people will not allow its government to enter into a security agreement while the United States continues to violate Afghan sovereignty and Afghan laws.
There's a lot of talk in America among the American public. They're also questioning the U.S. presence here in Afghanistan. There have been also American lives and international lives lost here on Afghan soil. What would you say to an American family member who lost a loved one, whether it be a son or a daughter, a husband or a wife? How would you say if their sacrifice was worth it or not?
Well, if they came to help Afghanistan, only help Afghanistan, then the Afghan people are very grateful for the sacrifice that they've done. And we will respect and remember that. But as the US leaders say, you hear it from President Obama, you hear it from other leaders, that the United States is here to protect its own security, to fight Al-Qaeda, to fight terrorism, and that they're not necessarily here for Afghanistan. Then in that fight, the Afghan people have paid a much greater price.
How would you describe your personal relationship with President Obama and also Afghanistan's current relationship with the United States?
Well, my relations with President Obama are not tension-ridden. It's the relation as a whole between Afghanistan and the United States that are full of tensions. And this tension did not begin with the government of President Obama. The tensions began to surface way back, even while the administration before that, during President Bush's time. The relations between us and America has evolved from one of us not knowing them well and not knowing their ways and means of conducting their policy in Afghanistan, and they not recognizing us well or not knowing us well. Now we have measured one another very well. We know how the United States works. We know how it functions. We know what means they use to gain their objectives. So it's more business-like today. It's not based on sentiments or expectations. It's based on us having interests, the United States having an interest, and we are trying to reconcile those interests where both are met.